The morning sun cast long shadows across the military compound as 17-year-old Sarah Martinez adjusted her oversized helmet one more time. The gear felt heavy on her small frame, and she could hear the whispered conversations of the seasoned rangers around her. Their eyes followed her every movement with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism that had become all too familiar over the past 3 days. Captain Davidson stood at the front of the briefing room, his weathered face stern as he reviewed the mission parameters. The satellite images on the screen showed a complex of buildings nestled in a valley surrounded by dense forest. Intelligence reports indicated that a group of insurgents had taken control of a strategic communications facility, and the Rangers had been tasked with retaking it. The enemy has approximately 30 combatants. Davidson's voice cut through the tension in the room. They're well-armed and have had time to fortify their positions. We'll approach from the north ridge under cover of darkness and establish overwatch positions before dawn. Sarah listened intently, her mind already processing the tactical information. She had spent countless hours studying military strategy and combat techniques, absorbing every detail with the intensity that had earned her a place in this elite unit despite her age. Her fingers traced the outline of her weapon, checking each component with practiced precision. Sergeant Williams, a 20-year veteran with scars that told stories of countless battles, glanced at Sarah and shook his head slightly. He had voiced his concerns about having a teenager on such a critical mission, but orders were orders. The higher-ups had insisted that Sarah's unique skills and intelligence-gathering abilities made her invaluable to the team. The briefing continued with detailed discussions of entry points, communication protocols, and extraction procedures. Sarah absorbed every word, occasionally raising her hand to ask pointed questions that demonstrated her thorough understanding of the tactical situation. Her queries were so insightful that even the most skeptical Rangers began to pay closer attention to her contributions. As the team prepared to move out, Sarah checked her equipment one final time. Her communications gear was state-of-the-art, modified specifically for her smaller build, but maintaining full functionality. She had trained extensively with every piece of equipment, proving herself capable despite the physical challenges her age presented. The helicopter ride to the insertion point was tense, with each Ranger lost in their own thoughts about the mission ahead. Sarah stared out the window at the terrain below, memorizing landmarks and potential escape routes. Her training had taught her to always have multiple contingency plans, and this mission would test every skill she had developed. Lieutenant Rodriguez, the team's second-in-command, briefed them on the latest intelligence updates over the helicopter's communication system. The enemy had been observed moving additional supplies into the facility, suggesting they were preparing for an extended siege. This information changed the dynamic of the mission, requiring the Rangers to adapt their approach. As they approached the drop zone, Sarah felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that preceded combat operations. She had experienced this sensation during training exercises, but this was her first real combat mission. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders as she realized that the success of the mission might depend on her ability to perform under pressure. The helicopter touched down in a small clearing several miles from the target. The Rangers moved quickly and silently, disappearing into the forest like shadows. Sarah followed closely behind Sergeant Williams, her footsteps carefully placed to avoid making any noise. The months of training in stealth movement served her well as they navigated through the dense undergrowth. The team established their base camp in a concealed position overlooking the valley. From their vantage point, they could observe the enemy facility and monitor the movements of the insurgents. Sarah set up her communications equipment, establishing secure links with command headquarters and ensuring that all team members could maintain contact throughout the operation. As night fell, the Rangers prepared for the next phase of their mission. Sarah reviewed the facility's layout one more time, noting the positions of guards and identifying potential weak points in the enemy's defenses. Her analytical mind processed the information quickly, forming tactical assessments that would prove crucial in the hours ahead. The insurgents had indeed fortified their position well. Machine gun nests were positioned at strategic points around the perimeter, and roving patrols moved between buildings in an irregular pattern that made timing difficult to predict. Sarah observed their movements through night vision scopes, documenting their routines and looking for exploitable patterns. Captain Davidson gathered the team for a final briefing before the assault. The plan was to create a diversion at the southern entrance while the main assault team approached from the north. Sarah would remain with the Overwatch team, providing communication support and intelligence updates as the situation developed. However, as they prepared to move into position, Sarah noticed something that the others had missed. The insurgents were using a sophisticated communication system that operated on frequencies different from what their intelligence had indicated. This discovery could significantly impact the mission's success, as the enemy's ability to coordinate their defense would be much more effective than anticipated. She quickly brought this information to Captain Davidson's attention, explaining how she had identified the communication patterns and what this meant for their tactical approach. The captain listened carefully, recognizing the importance of Sarah's observation. This was exactly the kind of intelligence that headquarters had hoped she would be able to provide. The discovery forced the team to reconsider their approach. If the enemy could communicate effectively between positions, a conventional assault would be much more difficult and costly. Sarah suggested an alternative strategy that would take advantage of her technical skills while minimizing the risk to the Rangers. Her proposal involved infiltrating the enemy's communication network to disrupt their coordination at the critical moment of the assault. This would require her to get much closer to the facility than originally planned, but it could provide the tactical advantage needed for the mission's success. The Rangers looked at each other uncertainly. Allowing their youngest team member to take such a risk went against every instinct they had developed over years of combat experience. Yet Sarah's plan was sound, and her technical expertise was unmatched within the unit. As they debated the merits of the modified plan, Sarah continued to monitor the enemy's communications, gathering additional intelligence about their capabilities and intentions. What she discovered in those intercepted transmissions would change everything about how they approached the mission and, ultimately, how they viewed the teenager who had identified information that veteran intelligence analysts had missed. The night air was cold against their faces as the Rangers prepared for what would become one of the most challenging operations of their careers. Sarah checked her equipment one final time, knowing that the next few hours would test not only her technical skills, but also her courage under fire. The skeptical glances from some team members had been replaced by expressions of cautious respect, but she knew that real acceptance would only come through performance in combat. As they moved toward their assault positions, Sarah's mind raced with calculations and contingencies. She had trained for this moment, but the reality of combat would be unlike anything she had experienced in simulation exercises. The weight of responsibility was heavy, knowing that her actions could determine the success or failure of the mission and the safety of her teammates. The facility loomed ahead through the darkness, its lights creating an ominous glow against the forest backdrop. Sarah could see the insurgents moving between buildings, unaware that elite Rangers were positioning themselves for an assault. Soon, the quiet of the night would be shattered by the sounds of combat, and a 17-year-old girl would have the opportunity to prove that age was no barrier to tactical excellence and battlefield courage. Sarah crouched behind a fallen log, her fingers working quickly across the portable communication interface she had designed herself. The enemy's radio chatter filled her headphones as she decoded their encrypted transmissions, revealing information that made her blood run cold. The insurgents weren't just holding the communication facility, they were planning to use it as a launching point for a series of coordinated attacks across the region. The intelligence she was gathering went far beyond what anyone had expected. These weren't simple insurgents seeking to control a strategic position. They were part of a larger network, and the facility served as a command center for operations that could affect thousands of civilian lives. The urgency of the mission had just increased exponentially. Captain Davidson's voice crackled through her earpiece, requesting an update on the communication intercepts. Sarah took a deep breath before responding, knowing that her next words would change the entire scope of their operation. She quickly summarized what she had discovered, explaining how the enemy was coordinating with multiple cells across a three-state area. The captain's response was immediate and decisive. They couldn't simply retake the facility. They had to ensure that all intelligence was preserved and that the enemy's communication network was completely disrupted. This meant the mission had evolved from a standard assault to a complex intelligence operation with multiple objectives. Sarah's role became even more critical as the team adapted to these new requirements. She would need to maintain the communication intercepts while simultaneously planning the technical aspects of preserving the enemy's equipment for intelligence analysis. The teenager found herself at the center of a rapidly evolving tactical situation that would test every skill she had developed. Sergeant Williams moved to her position, his expression serious as he listened to her latest discoveries. The veteran soldier had seen many operations change course, but rarely had such critical intelligence been gathered by someone so young. He watched as Sarah worked with practiced efficiency, her age becoming irrelevant in the face of her obvious competence. The enemy's communication patterns revealed that they expected a supply convoy to arrive before dawn. This convoy wasn't bringing additional weapons or personnel. It was delivering sophisticated electronic equipment that would enhance their ability to coordinate the planned attacks. The Rangers now had a narrow window of opportunity to prevent this escalation. Sarah's analysis of the intercepted communications revealed the convoy's planned route and estimated time of arrival. She cross-referenced this information with the facility's security rotations to identify the optimal moment for the assault. Her calculations showed that they had less than 3 hours to execute a perfect operation. The complexity of the situation required the Rangers to split into multiple teams. One group would intercept the convoy while the main assault team secured the facility. Sarah would accompany a small technical team tasked with preserving the communication equipment and extracting critical intelligence before the enemy could destroy it. As they prepared for this multi-pronged operation, Sarah continued monitoring the enemy's communications. She discovered that the insurgents had established multiple fallback positions throughout the area. If the Rangers weren't successful in their initial assault, the enemy could retreat to these secondary positions and continue their operations from there. This information forced another tactical adjustment. The Rangers would need to coordinate with additional support units to ensure that all enemy positions were neutralized simultaneously. Sarah's intelligence gathering had transformed a localized operation into a regional counterterrorism effort involving multiple military units. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached Sarah's position with updated orders from command headquarters. The higher command had reviewed her intelligence reports and authorized additional resources for the expanded mission. Air support was being repositioned, and special forces units from neighboring bases were being deployed to assist with the operation. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility as she realized how her discoveries had escalated the situation. What had begun as a routine facility retaking had become a critical operation that could prevent a series of terrorist attacks. The teenagers' technical skills and analytical abilities had uncovered a threat that veteran intelligence analysts had missed. The enemy's communication patterns indicated increasing anxiety within their ranks. Sarah could hear the tension in their voices as they discussed contingency plans and evacuation procedures. It seemed that someone within their organization was concerned about potential security breaches, though they had no idea that their communications were being intercepted. This growing paranoia among the insurgents created both opportunities and risks for the Rangers. On one hand, the enemy's uncertainty might cause them to make mistakes that could be exploited. On the other hand, their heightened alert status would make the assault more dangerous and unpredictable. Sarah shared her analysis of the enemy's psychological state with Captain Davidson, explaining how their growing paranoia might affect the mission. Her insights into human behavior, combined with her technical expertise, provided the command team with a more complete picture of what they were facing. As the hours passed, Sarah's confidence grew despite the increasing complexity of the situation. She had proven to herself and her teammates that age was no barrier to tactical excellence. The skepticism she had faced earlier was being replaced by genuine respect from the veteran Rangers who recognized her contributions to the mission's success. The enemy convoy was detected on approach, confirming Sarah's analysis of their communication intercepts. The timing was perfect. The Rangers could execute their multi-phase assault with precision. Sarah's intelligence had provided them with the tactical advantage they needed to succeed against a well-prepared and dangerous enemy. Sergeant Williams checked his equipment one final time before moving toward his assault position. He paused to look at Sarah, his expression reflecting the grudging admiration he had developed for the young specialist. Her performance under pressure had impressed him, and he was beginning to understand why the command structure had insisted on including her in this critical mission. The final preparations were made in tense silence. Each Ranger understood their role in the complex operation that was about to unfold. Sarah would remain with the technical team, but her communication intercepts would guide the entire operation. The intelligence she had gathered would determine whether they could prevent the planned terrorist attacks. As they moved into their assault positions, Sarah maintained constant monitoring of the enemy's communications. She could hear the insurgents discussing the approaching convoy and making final preparations for its arrival. Their confidence was evident in their casual conversation, unaware that elite Rangers were positioned to destroy their entire operation. The night was eerily quiet except for the distant sound of the approaching convoy vehicles. Sarah's heart pounded as she realized that the next few minutes would determine the success or failure of everything they had worked toward. Her technical skills would be tested in the heat of combat, and there would be no second chances. Captain Davidson's voice came through her earpiece with the final countdown. Sarah took a deep breath and focused on her equipment, ready to provide the communication support that would coordinate the complex assault. The teenager who had been questioned and doubted just hours earlier was now a critical component of a major military operation. The sound of the convoy's engines grew louder as the vehicles approached the facility. Sarah watched through her night vision scope as the enemy guards prepared to receive their expected supplies. In moments, the Rangers would launch their coordinated attack, and Sarah's intelligence would be put to the ultimate test in the crucible of combat. Through her intercepts, Sarah could hear the convoy commander reporting his approach to the facility. The enemy's confidence was about to be shattered by an assault they never saw coming. The teenagers' careful analysis and technical expertise had given the Rangers every advantage they needed to succeed in what was about to become a defining moment in the fight against terrorism. The first explosions shattered the pre-dawn silence as the Rangers initiated their coordinated assault on multiple fronts. Sarah's heart raced as she watched the carefully planned operation unfold through her night vision equipment. The convoy had been successfully intercepted, and the main assault on the facility was proceeding according to the tactical plan she had helped develop. Through her communication intercepts, Sarah could hear the panic spreading among the insurgents as they realized they were under attack from multiple directions. Their confident chatter had been replaced by frantic attempts to coordinate a defense against an assault they hadn't anticipated. The teenagers' intelligence gathering had provided the Rangers with complete tactical surprise. Sergeant Williams led his team through the facility's northern entrance, moving with the precision that came from years of combat experience. Sarah monitored their progress through her communication link, providing real-time updates on enemy positions based on her continued interception of the insurgents' radio traffic. Her voice remained calm and professional despite the chaos erupting around them. The enemy's command structure was beginning to collapse under the pressure of the coordinated attack. Sarah could hear their commanders issuing contradictory orders as they struggled to understand the scope of the assault. The confusion was exactly what the Rangers had hoped to achieve, and it was working perfectly to their advantage. Captain Davidson's assault team encountered heavier resistance at the main building, where the insurgents had established their primary communication center. Sarah's intercepts revealed that the enemy was attempting to destroy critical intelligence before the Rangers could secure it. Time was running out to preserve the information that could prevent future terrorist attacks. Sarah made a critical decision that would define her role in the mission. She requested permission to move closer to the facility to establish a direct link with the enemy's communication system. This would allow her to prevent the destruction of intelligence while simultaneously disrupting their ability to coordinate their defense. The request was met with immediate resistance from the command team. Moving the teenager into the active combat zone went against every protocol and safety consideration. However, Sarah's technical analysis showed that her proposal was the only way to achieve their expanded mission objectives within the remaining time window. Lieutenant Rodriguez supported Sarah's request, recognizing that her unique skills made her the only person capable of executing the technical aspects of the plan. The debate was brief but intense, with veteran Rangers expressing concerns about putting their youngest team member in such immediate danger. Sarah's determination was evident as she explained the technical requirements for accessing the enemy's system. Her confidence and expertise gradually convinced the command team that the risk was justified by the potential intelligence value. The teenager had proven herself capable of making critical tactical decisions under extreme pressure. Permission was granted with strict conditions. Sarah would be accompanied by a two-man security team and would have immediate extraction support if the situation became untenable. The modified plan required precise timing and coordination between all assault teams to ensure her safety while she attempted the technical infiltration. As Sarah moved toward the facility with her security escort, she could see the Rangers engaging enemy positions with methodical efficiency. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness as the professional soldiers systematically eliminated resistance. The sound of gunfire and explosions created a chaotic backdrop for what would be the most challenging moment of her young career. The enemy's communication center was located in the facility's main building, heavily defended by insurgents who understood its strategic importance. Sarah's escort team identified a secondary entrance that would allow them to approach the building without engaging the main defensive positions. The route was dangerous, but feasible with careful timing. Sarah's portable equipment allowed her to begin accessing the enemy's communication network from outside the building. She could see the data streams flowing through their system, revealing information about planned attacks, cell locations, and coordination protocols. The intelligence value was enormous, but she needed direct access to prevent its destruction. The insertion into the building required split-second timing as the Rangers created a diversion at the main entrance. Sarah and her escort moved through the secondary entrance while the insurgents were focused on the primary assault. Her heart pounded as they navigated through corridors filled with the sounds of combat. They reached the communication center as enemy technicians were attempting to implement their data destruction protocols. Sarah's escort team engaged the insurgents while she rushed to the communication equipment. Her training kicked in as she began the complex process of preventing the data destruction while simultaneously copying critical intelligence. The technical challenge was unlike anything Sarah had faced in training. The enemy's system was more sophisticated than expected, with multiple layers of security and destruction protocols. She worked with intense focus as gunfire erupted around her, her fingers flying across the control interfaces as she raced against time. Sergeant Williams' voice crackled through her earpiece, reporting that the main assault teams were encountering unexpected resistance. Additional insurgents had emerged from concealed positions, and the Rangers were facing a more complex tactical situation than initially anticipated. Sarah's intelligence intercepts became even more critical for coordinating the evolving battle. As Sarah worked to secure the communication equipment, she discovered that the enemy had been coordinating with external support. Aircraft were approaching the area, and additional ground units were moving to reinforce the facility. The Rangers were about to face a significantly escalated threat level. This discovery required immediate communication to the command team. Sarah maintained her focus on the technical infiltration while simultaneously providing critical intelligence updates about the approaching enemy reinforcements. Her ability to multitask under extreme pressure proved invaluable as the situation continued to evolve. The enemy's data destruction protocols were more advanced than anticipated, requiring Sarah to employ techniques she had only theorized about during her training. She improvised solutions on the fly, using her deep understanding of communication systems to find vulnerabilities in their security measures. Captain Davidson made the difficult decision to accelerate the mission timeline based on Sarah's intelligence about approaching enemy reinforcements. The Rangers would need to secure their objectives and extract before the additional forces arrived. This put enormous pressure on Sarah to complete her technical mission quickly. The sounds of combat grew more intense as the Rangers engaged multiple enemy positions simultaneously. Sarah could hear the professional efficiency in their voices as they coordinated their assault, but she could also detect the strain as they adapted to the expanding threat. Her technical success was becoming crucial to the mission's overall outcome. Sarah's breakthrough came suddenly, as she found a vulnerability in the enemy's system architecture. She was able to prevent the data destruction and begin copying critical intelligence files. The information flowing across her screen revealed the full scope of the terrorist network's planned operations, confirming that their mission had uncovered a major threat. With the intelligence secured, Sarah began implementing her plan to disrupt the enemy's communication network. She systematically disabled their ability to coordinate with external forces while preserving their equipment for future intelligence analysis. Her technical sabotage would prevent the insurgents from calling for additional support. The extraction from the communication center required precise coordination with the assault teams. Sarah's escort team prepared to move her back to safety while she completed the final phases of her technical mission. The teenager who had been doubted hours earlier had successfully executed the most critical aspect of their expanded operation. As they prepared to leave the building, Sarah realized that her actions had fundamentally altered the tactical situation. The enemy's communication network was disabled, their intelligence was compromised, and their ability to coordinate future attacks was severely damaged. A 17-year-old girl had struck a decisive blow against a sophisticated terrorist organization. The Rangers began their coordinated extraction as Sarah secured her copied intelligence data. The mission had exceeded all expectations, not just in terms of tactical success, but in demonstrating the value of incorporating unconventional skills and perspectives into elite military operations. Sarah's contribution had transformed what could have been a routine mission into a significant intelligence victory. The extraction from the communication center became significantly more challenging as enemy reinforcements arrived ahead of schedule. Sarah's intelligence about the approaching forces had been accurate, But their timeline was compressed beyond what anyone had anticipated. The sounds of helicopter rotors filled the air as hostile aircraft moved into position around the facility. Sarah's escort team found their planned extraction route blocked by newly arrived insurgents who had established defensive positions along their intended path. The teenager remained calm under pressure, her mind racing as she calculated alternative routes while continuing to monitor the enemy's communication attempts through her portable equipment. Sergeant Williams' voice came through the communication link with urgency as his team encountered the arriving reinforcements. The professional soldier's experience told him that the tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly, but Sarah's intelligence gave them critical information about the enemy's deployment patterns and intentions. The enemy forces were better organized than the original defenders, suggesting that the facility was more important to their overall operations than intelligence had indicated. Sarah's intercepts revealed that these reinforcements included technical specialists whose mission was to recover or destroy the communication equipment before it could be analyzed. Captain Davidson coordinated the Rangers' response to the escalating situation. The original mission parameters were no longer adequate for dealing with the enhanced threat level. Sarah's intelligence had uncovered a terrorist network of greater scope and sophistication than anyone had imagined, and the enemy's response reflected the strategic value of what they were trying to protect. Sarah's analysis of the enemy's deployment revealed weaknesses that could be exploited despite their superior numbers. The reinforcements had arrived quickly, but without proper coordination with the original defenders. This created gaps in their defensive coverage that experienced Rangers could exploit. Lieutenant Rodriguez led a diversionary assault that drew the enemy's attention away from Sarah's position. The Rangers' tactical flexibility allowed them to adapt to the changing situation while maintaining their primary objective of extracting the critical intelligence Sarah had secured. The communication equipment in the center continued to provide valuable intelligence even as the battle raged outside. Sarah discovered that the enemy was coordinating with additional cells across the region, confirming that their mission had disrupted a major terrorist operation. The information she was gathering would have strategic implications far beyond this single engagement. As the Rangers fought to maintain their tactical advantage, Sarah identified a pattern in the enemy's communication that revealed their command structure. The arriving reinforcements were taking orders from a command element that wasn't present at the facility. This external command was coordinating multiple operations simultaneously, making their communication network a high-value target for future intelligence operations. The realization that they were dealing with a major terrorist command element elevated the mission's importance exponentially. Sarah's technical skills had uncovered intelligence that could disrupt terrorist operations across multiple states. The teenager's contribution was proving to be far more significant than anyone had anticipated. Sergeant Williams reached Sarah's position as enemy forces began concentrating their assault on the communication center. The veteran ranger recognized that they were facing a desperate enemy who understood the strategic value of the intelligence they were trying to protect. The extraction would require all of his combat experience and tactical knowledge. Sarah's portable equipment allowed her to maintain communication intercepts even as they prepared to evacuate the building. She could hear the enemy commanders becoming increasingly frantic as they realized the extent of the intelligence compromise. Their desperation was making them more dangerous, but also more predictable. The enemy's attempts to regain control of the communication center revealed additional information about their network structure. Sarah's intercepts showed that the terrorist organization had cells in major cities across the country, all coordinating through the communication hub she had infiltrated. The intelligence value of her mission was growing exponentially. Captain Davidson made the tactical decision to hold the facility longer than originally planned to allow Sarah to complete her intelligence gathering. The Rangers would face increased risk, but the information she was uncovering could prevent terrorist attacks that would cost thousands of lives. The mission had evolved from facility retaking to strategic intelligence operations. The enemy's reinforcements included specialists trained in electronic warfare who began attempting to disrupt the Rangers' communication links. Sarah's technical expertise became crucial for maintaining coordination between the assault teams as the enemy tried to isolate them from each other and from command support. Sarah implemented countermeasures against the enemy's electronic warfare attempts while simultaneously extracting the final critical intelligence from their communication system. Her ability to multitask under extreme pressure proved invaluable as the Rangers fought to maintain their tactical advantage against superior numbers. The intelligence Sarah discovered revealed that the terrorist network was planning coordinated attacks timed to coincide with a major public event. The timing was critical. Without the information she was gathering, security forces would have no warning of the planned assault. Her mission had become a race against time to prevent a major terrorist attack. Lieutenant Rodriguez's diversionary assault succeeded in creating an opportunity for Sarah's extraction, but the window was narrow. The Rangers would need to move quickly and precisely to get the teenager and her intelligence out of the facility before the enemy could prevent their escape. As they prepared for the final phase of the extraction, Sarah made one last discovery that changed everything. The enemy's communication system contained real-time intelligence about ongoing terrorist operations in major cities. This wasn't just about preventing future attacks. There were operations already in progress that could be stopped if the intelligence reached the appropriate authorities quickly enough. The urgency of the situation required immediate communication with command headquarters. Sarah's discoveries needed to reach counterterrorism units across the country within hours to prevent active terrorist operations from succeeding. The teenager's technical mission had uncovered threats that were far more immediate than anyone had realized. Sergeant Williams coordinated the final extraction as Sarah completed her intelligence gathering. The enemy was concentrating all available forces on preventing their escape, understanding that the loss of their communication intelligence would devastate their entire network. The Rangers faced their most challenging tactical situation as they prepared to fight their way out. Sarah's analysis of the enemy's deployment revealed one final opportunity for tactical advantage. The terrorist forces were so focused on preventing the intelligence loss that they had created a vulnerability in their defensive positions. Her observation provided the Rangers with the information they needed to execute a successful extraction against overwhelming odds. The communication center fell silent as Sarah completed her mission and shut down the enemy's remaining communication capabilities. The terrorist network's primary coordination hub had been completely compromised, and their ability to execute planned attacks was severely damaged. A 17-year-old specialist had delivered a devastating blow to a sophisticated terrorist organization. As the Rangers prepared for the dangerous extraction through enemy-controlled territory, Sarah secured the portable drives containing the critical intelligence she had gathered. The information on those drives would save lives and disrupt terrorist operations across multiple states. Her technical expertise and analytical skills had exceeded every expectation and transformed a routine mission into a strategic victory. The sounds of approaching helicopter extraction craft mixed with the ongoing gunfire as the Rangers fought to reach their pickup zone. Sarah's mission was nearly complete, but the most dangerous phase lay ahead as they attempted to escape with intelligence that the enemy would do anything to prevent from reaching American security forces. The extraction helicopters arrived under heavy enemy fire as the Rangers fought their way toward the designated pickup zone. Sarah clutched the portable drives containing the critical intelligence, knowing that the information they held could prevent multiple terrorist attacks across the country. The teenager who had been questioned about her age just hours earlier now carried intelligence that would save countless lives. Sergeant Williams provided covering fire as Sarah and her escort team moved toward the helicopter landing zone. The veteran ranger had developed profound respect for the young specialist who had exceeded every expectation under the most challenging circumstances. Her technical skills and courage under fire had proven that age was no barrier to tactical excellence. The enemy forces launched a desperate assault to prevent the Rangers' extraction, understanding that the loss of their communication intelligence would cripple their entire network. Sarah could hear their commanders screaming orders through her communication intercepts, their desperation evident as they realized the scope of their intelligence compromise. Captain Davidson coordinated the final defensive positions as the extraction helicopters maneuvered through intense ground fire. The mission had evolved far beyond its original parameters, but the intelligence Sarah had gathered made every risk worthwhile. Her discoveries would have strategic implications that would resonate throughout the counterterrorism community. As they reached the pickup zone, Sarah transmitted her preliminary intelligence findings to command headquarters. The information about ongoing terrorist operations in major cities required immediate action by security forces across the country. Her technical mission had uncovered active threats that were already in motion. The helicopter extraction was executed under the most dangerous conditions possible, with enemy forces concentrating their fire on the aircraft while the Rangers provided desperate covering fire. Sarah's intelligence had made her the most valuable person in the combat zone, and The enemy understood that preventing her escape was their only hope of salvaging their operations. Lieutenant Rodriguez was wounded covering Sarah's approach to the extraction helicopter, but he continued fighting to ensure the teenager and her intelligence reached safety. The Rangers' professional dedication was evident as they prioritized the mission's success over their personal safety. Sarah's contribution had earned their complete respect and commitment. The intelligence drive Sarah had secured contained detailed information about terrorist cell structures, planned attack schedules, and coordination protocols that would revolutionize counterterrorism operations. Her technical infiltration of the enemy's communication system had provided insight into terrorist operations that intelligence agencies had been seeking for years. As the helicopter lifted off under fire, Sarah maintained communication with command headquarters, providing real-time analysis of the intelligence she had gathered. Her voice remained calm and professional despite the chaos of the extraction, demonstrating the composure that had made her invaluable to the mission's success. The enemy's reaction to the intelligence loss was immediate and desperate. Sarah's intercepts revealed that terrorist cells across the country were being ordered to abandon their planned operations and evacuate their positions. Her mission had disrupted an entire terrorist network and prevented attacks that could have caused massive casualties. Sergeant Williams watched as Sarah continued working even during the dangerous helicopter extraction, analyzing intelligence and coordinating with counterterrorism units across multiple states. The veteran soldier realized that he had witnessed something extraordinary, a teenager whose skills and dedication had changed the course of a major military operation. The scope of Sarah's intelligence discoveries became clear as command headquarters began coordinating with law enforcement agencies nationwide. Her technical infiltration had uncovered terrorist operations in 12 major cities, all coordinated through the communication hub she had compromised. The strategic value of her mission was unprecedented. Federal agents across the country began coordinating raids on terrorist safe houses using intelligence Sarah had provided. Her careful analysis of the enemy's communication patterns had revealed not just planned attacks, but ongoing operations that could be interdicted before they caused harm. The teenager's work was saving lives in real time. Captain Davidson reviewed the preliminary intelligence reports as they flew back to base, recognizing that Sarah's contribution had elevated what could have been a routine mission into one of the most significant counterterrorism operations in recent history. Her technical skills and analytical abilities had uncovered threats that veteran intelligence professionals had missed. The terrorist network's communication system had been completely compromised, and their ability to coordinate future operations was severely damaged. Sarah's technical expertise had delivered a devastating blow to an organization that had been planning attacks for months. The intelligence she had gathered would provide security benefits for years to come. As news of the mission's success reached command headquarters, senior military leaders began recognizing the strategic implications of Sarah's intelligence discoveries. Her work had not only prevented immediate terrorist attacks, but had also provided insight into terrorist operations that would enhance national security efforts across multiple agencies. The Rangers who had initially questioned Sarah's presence on the mission now understood why command had insisted on her inclusion. Her unique combination of technical skills, analytical abilities, and courage under fire had proven invaluable in ways that conventional military training could never have anticipated. Sarah's intelligence revealed that the terrorist network had been planning a coordinated attack during a major sporting event that would have attracted national attention. Her technical mission had prevented what could have been one of the most devastating terrorist attacks in American history. The 17-year-old specialist had literally saved thousands of lives. The extraction helicopter reached base safely, and Sarah was immediately debriefed by intelligence specialists who recognized the extraordinary value of the information she had gathered. Her technical infiltration of the enemy's communication system had provided the most comprehensive insight into terrorist operations that any single mission had ever achieved. Federal counterterrorism units across the country reported successful raids on terrorist positions using Sarah's intelligence. Cell after cell was being rolled up as security forces acted on the information she had provided. The teenager's mission was having immediate and dramatic effects on national security. Sergeant Williams accompanied Sarah to the intelligence debriefing, wanting to ensure that her contributions were properly recognized and documented. The veteran ranger had learned never to underestimate someone based on age or appearance. Sarah's performance had changed his perspective on what made an effective military operator. The final intelligence analysis revealed that Sarah had uncovered a terrorist network that spanned multiple states and included dozens of active operatives. Her technical skills had penetrated security measures that had protected the organization for years. The strategic intelligence value was beyond anything the mission planners had anticipated. Command headquarters began implementing new protocols based on Sarah's technical innovations and analytical methods. Her approach to communication intercepts and intelligence analysis would become standard practice for future operations. The teenager had not just completed a successful mission, she had advanced the state of military intelligence operations. As the debriefing concluded, Sarah reflected on how the mission had challenged every assumption about age, capability, and military effectiveness. The Rangers who had questioned her presence had become her strongest supporters, recognizing that her unique skills had made their mission possible. She had proven that talent and dedication could overcome any barrier. The intelligence Sarah provided led to the disruption of terrorist operations across the entire network. Her age had become irrelevant in the face of her extraordinary performance, and the lives she had saved through her technical expertise and unwavering courage under fire.